In the vast expanse of the Warhammer 40,000 universe, where reality and nightmare intertwine, there exist warriors so powerful that even space marines whisper their names in dread. These are the champions of chaos, individuals who have transcended their mortal beginnings through unholy pacts with the dark gods, becoming living embodiments of destruction and madness. Picture a realm where ambition knows no bounds, where power is the only currency that matters, and where the laws of physics bend to the will of those who dare to grasp godhood. The champions of chaos emerge from various backgrounds, once loyal space marines, brilliant strategists, cunning warriors, and even ordinary humans who caught the eye of the ruinous powers. These fearsome warriors stand as the antithesis to everything the Imperium of man represents. While Imperial heroes fight for duty and honor, champions of chaos pursue raw power and immortal glory. They lead armies of corrupted followers, command warships that defy comprehension, and wield weapons that blur the line between technology and sorcery. The path to becoming a champion of chaos is paved with countless skulls and broken oaths. Each champion's journey begins with a choice, a moment of weakness, a burning desire for revenge, or an insatiable hunger for knowledge. The Dark Gods, Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, and Slaanesh, watch closely, selecting those worthy of their twisted gifts. Some champions dedicate themselves to a single deity, while others play a dangerous game, courting favor from multiple gods in their quest for supremacy. Their influence extends far beyond the Eye of Terror, that massive tear in reality where the powers of chaos reign supreme. Champions of chaos orchestrate galaxy-spanning campaigns, ignite civil wars, and corrupt entire planetary populations. Their mere presence can turn the tide of battle as reality itself warps around them, and their legendary weapons cut through both flesh and spirit with equal ease. Yet, what truly sets them apart is not just their supernatural abilities or demonic allegiances, but their individuality. Unlike the faceless hordes they command, each champion of chaos is unique, a dark hero of their own story, each pursuing personal vendettas and grandiose ambitions. Their names echo through history: Abaddon the Despoiler, Typhus the Traveler, Lucius the Eternal, each a testament to the terrible power that chaos can bestow upon those willing to sacrifice everything, including their humanity. But power comes at a terrible price. The gifts of chaos are as cruel as they are potent. Physical mutations, mental instability, and an eternal hunger for more mark these champions. They are forever caught in the great game of chaos, where today's victor might become tomorrow's sacrifice, and where even the mightiest can fall from grace in an instant. In the grim darkness of the far future, where there is only war, the champions of chaos represent the ultimate threat to humanity's survival. They are the fever dreams of madmen made manifest, the embodiment of humanity's worst nightmares, and the proof that even the greatest heroes can fall to darkness. Their stories serve as both warning and temptation, a reminder that the path to power through chaos offers everything one could desire, but demands everything in return. As we delve deeper into their dark legends, remember, every champion of chaos was once someone else, a loyal warrior, a dedicated servant, a brilliant leader. Their transformations from servants of order to agents of destruction mirror the very nature of chaos itself: eternal, unpredictable, and utterly devastating. The pantheon of chaos champions represents a diverse collection of legendary warriors, each carving their own bloody path through the millennia. At the forefront stands Abaddon the Despoiler, war master of chaos and successor to Horus himself. Unlike many who fell before him, Abaddon refuses to bend knee to any single chaos god, instead manipulating their blessings to fuel his own ambitions. His Black Legion serves as a unifying force for the forces of chaos, drawing warriors from all traitor legions under his banner. Serving the blood god Khorne, we find Karn the Betrayer, whose very presence on a battlefield guarantees unprecedented bloodshed. Once a respected captain of the World Eaters, his fall to madness during the Siege of Terra transformed him into an unstoppable killing machine. His infamous chain axe, Gorechild, has claimed countless lives, including those of his own allies when the blood fury takes him. In stark contrast, Ahriman of the Thousand Suns represents the intellectual pursuit of power through sorcery. His catastrophic rubric spell, intended to save his legion from mutation, instead turned most of his brothers into dust-filled automata. Now he scours ancient libraries and forbidden archives, seeking knowledge to reverse his greatest failure. The Death Guard's champion, Typhus the Traveler, Herald of Nurgle, spreads pestilence across the galaxy. His ship, the Terminus Est, has become a floating laboratory of plague and decay. Through his mastery of the Destroyer Hive, he transforms prosperous worlds into festering gardens of Nurgle's making. Lucius the Eternal embodies Slaaneish's twisted perfection in combat. His unique curse ensures that anyone who kills him and feels even a moment of pride in the deed will eventually transform into Lucius himself, their consciousness trapped forever within his armor of agonized faces. Among the Iron Warriors, Perturabo stands as a dark reflection of technological mastery. His siege warfare expertise transforms fortress worlds into rubble, while his Demon Forge worlds produce ever more terrifying engines of destruction. Confronting these champions stands a variety of Imperial heroes. The Grey Knights, humanity's psychic specialists, deploy their most powerful warriors to counter these threats. Supreme Grandmaster Kaldor Drago has carved his name into Mortarian's heart and wandered the warp itself, proving that even the mightiest champions can be challenged. The Officio Assassinorum maintains special protocols for each major champion, with Calexis assassins specifically trained to target sorcerous threats like Ahriman, while Eversor assassins are unleashed against champions who rely on physical might. Legion of the Damned spectral space marines who appear at humanity's darkest hours have thwarted many champions' plans. Their supernatural abilities and immunity to corruption make them particularly effective against chaos forces. Inquisitor Epimetheus of the Ordo Malleus has dedicated millennia to studying and countering champion threats, developing specific tactics for each major player. His scholarly work, Taxonomia Chaotic, serves as the Inquisition's primary source for champion identification and combat strategies. Particularly interesting are the fallen angels, former Dark Angels, who know the truth about many champions' origins. Their interrogations provide crucial intelligence about Chaos champions' weaknesses and patterns of behavior. Some Imperial Saints have proven capable of matching champions in direct combat. Saint Celestine's battles against various champions demonstrate that faith can be as powerful as Chaos corruption. Her flaming sword has banished multiple champions back to the warp, though they inevitably return. The Necrons, ancient enemies of both Chaos and humanity, employ specialized technology against champions. Their Tesseract labyrinths have imprisoned several champions, though never permanently. The Silent King himself views these corrupted warriors as particularly dangerous threats to his plans for galactic dominion. Among the Eldari, the Harlequins maintain extensive records of champion activities in their Black Library. Shadow Seers have developed specific countermeasures for each major champion, weaving anti-chaos psychic techniques into their performance battles. Operating in the shadows, the Alpha Legion maintains a complex network of operatives who monitor and occasionally assassinate aspiring champions before they can reach their full potential. Their doctrine of preventing champion ascension has saved countless worlds from corruption. These opposing forces create a complex web of conflict, where champions must navigate not only their rivals within Chaos, but also the various specialized forces arrayed against them. This eternal struggle ensures that only the most cunning and powerful champions survive, while countless aspirants fall to carefully planned Imperial assassinations or Xenos interference. The emergence of Chaos champions traces its origins to the fundamental nature of the warp itself. In the timeless realm of raw emotion and infinite possibility, the Dark Gods seek anchors in reality, individuals who can serve as conduits for their otherworldly power. This necessity birthed the very concept of champions as the Chaos Gods required mortal agents to extend their influence beyond the immaterium. The seeds of this dark evolution were planted during humanity's earliest encounters with the warp. As mankind spread across the stars during the Dark Age of technology, psychically gifted individuals unconsciously drew the attention of entities beyond comprehension. The collapse of this golden age, marked by devastating warp storms, created perfect conditions for corruption, desperate humans seeking power, protection, or simple survival. However, it was the Emperor's Great Crusade that inadvertently provided chaos with its greatest opportunity. The creation of the Primarchs and Space Marines, post-human warriors with enhanced physical and mental capabilities, gave the Dark Gods a template for what their champions could become. These genetically modified super soldiers possessed the potential to channel unprecedented amounts of warp energy without immediate dissolution. The unification wars on Terra served as a proving ground for future champions. As the Emperor conquered techno-barbarian kingdoms, many of their leaders fled rather than submit, taking with them ancient knowledge of forbidden rituals. These individuals became some of the first human champions, their bitter resentment of the Emperor's dominion making them perfect vessels for chaos corruption. The Dark Gods' method of creating champions reveals their insidious brilliance. Rather than simply empowering the strongest warriors, they seek out individuals with deep-seated psychological wounds. A Space Marine's sense of betrayal, a planetary governor's fear of irrelevance, a scholar's desperate quest for knowledge. These emotional fractures serve as entry points for chaos corruption. The Horus Heresy demonstrated the terrifying efficiency of this approach. The Chaos Gods didn't just create champions, they engineered a system for mass-producing them. By exploiting the Primarch's individual doubts and fears, they created figureheads who could, in turn, lead others to damnation. Each Traitor Legion developed its own twisted path to champion status, from the World Eater's descent into Berserker rage to the Emperor's children's pursuit of perfection. The formation of the Eye of Terror provided an essential base of operations for these champions. This massive warp rift serves as both refuge and proving ground, where aspiring champions can undergo the transformations necessary to fully embrace their dark potential. Within its swirling chaos, time flows differently, allowing champions to accumulate centuries of experience in what might be years in real space. The need for champions also stems from the Dark Gods' own limitations. While immensely powerful, the Chaos Gods cannot directly interact with real space for extended periods. Champions serve as their generals, diplomats, and executioners, mortal agents who can operate in both material and immaterial realms. This dual nature makes them invaluable tools in the Great Game. Interestingly, the Imperium's own rigid structure contributes to the creation of new champions. The oppressive nature of Imperial rule, combined with the heavy burden of duty placed on its warriors, creates perfect candidates for corruption. The very qualities that make excellent Imperial servants, determination, ambition, martial pride, can be twisted to serve chaos. The existence of champions also serves a practical purpose for the forces of chaos. In a realm where authority comes solely through power, champions provide necessary leadership and direction to the otherwise anarchic hordes of chaos. They serve as focal points around which armies can gather, giving purpose and organization to what would otherwise be mindless destruction. Moreover, champions fulfill a crucial role in the recruitment of new followers. Their visible transformations and supernatural abilities serve as testament to the rewards chaos offers. Each champion becomes a dark beacon, drawing others away from the Emperor's light with promises of power and immortality. The technological aspect of champion creation shouldn't be overlooked. Many champions arise from the Dark Mechanicum's experiments with forbidden technologies. The fusion of demonic essence with machinery creates unique opportunities for ascension, producing champions who bridge the gap between technological and supernatural power. This system of champion creation and evolution represents a self-sustaining cycle. Each new champion becomes a potential creator of future champions, spreading corruption and identifying promising candidates for the Dark God's attention. The most successful champions established their own dominions within the Eye of Terror, creating breeding grounds for future generations of Chaos leaders. Understanding these origins and mechanics helps explain why champions remain crucial to Chaos strategy. They are not merely powerful warriors or sorcerers. They are the linchpins holding together the forces of Chaos, living proof of the Dark God's power, and the architects of humanity's corruption. The chronological evolution of Chaos champions spans millennia, marking crucial turning points in galactic history. The first documented champions emerged during mankind's initial colonization of the stars. On isolated frontier worlds, powerful psychers and ambitious warlords made pacts with entities they barely understood, becoming proto-champions of the Dark Gods. During the Age of Strife, as warp storms isolated human colonies, these early champions consolidated their power. On countless worlds, they established dark kingdoms where sacrifice and sorcery became commonplace. The long night of old night saw the rise of techno-barbarian champions who combined archaic technology with warp-crafted powers. The Great Crusade marked a crucial phase in champion evolution. As the Emperor's forces reconnected human worlds, they encountered and destroyed many of these early champions. However, this period also laid the groundwork for a far more dangerous generation of champions. The creation of the Space Marine Legions inadvertently provided Chaos with its perfect vessels. The pivotal moment came with the corruption of Lorgar Aurelian, Primarch of the Word-Bearers. His quest for divine truth made him the first of the new breed of champions. Through his actions, the template for future Space Marine champions was established. His work, the Book of Lorgar, became a forbidden tome that would create champions for millennia to come. The Horus heresy erupted as a champion-making crucible. Within its fires, legendary figures like Karn, Ahriman, and Lucius began their transformations. Each major battle of the heresy spawned new champions as Space Marines embraced the dark powers to survive increasingly desperate situations. The Siege of Terra, in particular, saw massive numbers of warriors ascend to champion status through acts of unprecedented violence and betrayal. Post-heresy, the newly formed Eye of Terror became the primary incubator for champions. The First Black Crusade under Abaddon introduced a new paradigm champions working in concert toward larger strategic goals. This period saw the emergence of specialized champion types, from void warfare experts to masters of demonic summoning. During the Nova Terra Interregnum, champions exploited the Imperium's division to establish power bases in real space. This era witnessed the rise of mortal champions, non-space marine individuals who achieved extraordinary power through chaos patronage. The plague wars of this period created particularly virulent Nurglite champions. The Age of Apostasy provided new opportunities as champions of chaos manipulated the religious strife, tearing the Imperium apart. Several champions ascended by corrupting entire shrine worlds, turning centers of Imperial faith into strongholds of chaos worship. The 13th Black Crusade marked the modern apex of champion warfare. Abaddon's strategy relied heavily on champions leading specialized task forces. The fall of Cadia demonstrated how far champions had evolved, combining tactical brilliance with supernatural power in ways their predecessors could only imagine. The Cicatrix Maledictum's formation ushered in a new golden age for champion creation. With reality torn asunder, the barriers between real space and the warp weakened dramatically. This allowed champions to achieve levels of power previously impossible, leading to the emergence of Primaris-level Chaos champions, corrupted versions of the Imperium's newest warriors. The Indomitus Crusade era saw champions adapting to counter the Imperium's resurgence. New types emerged, specializing in corrupting Primaris Marines and turning the Imperium's latest weapons against it. The War of Beasts on Vigilus highlighted how champions had evolved to conduct complex, multi-layered campaigns. Recent years have witnessed the rise of specialized champion cadres. The Chaos Gods, recognizing the changing nature of warfare, began elevating champions with complementary abilities. The Thousand Suns' exalted sorcerers exemplify this trend, combining their powers in devastating psychic concordances. The Dark Imperium period has seen champions exploiting new opportunities created by the galaxy's division. Some have established minor empires in the Imperium Nihilus, while others conduct raids through the weakened barriers between reality and the warp. The emergence of mirror champions, corrupted reflections of loyal Space Marine chapter masters, represents the latest evolution in champion creation. Throughout this timeline, certain patterns emerge. Each major crisis in Imperial history creates conditions favorable for new champion types. The champions who survive longest are those who adapt their strategies while maintaining their core strengths. Most importantly, the rate of champion creation has increased exponentially with each passing millennium. This acceleration suggests an approaching critical mass, a point at which the number and power of champions might overwhelm the Imperium's defenses. The recent elevation of Primaris Marines to champion status indicates that even the Emperor's latest creations are not immune to this dark evolution. The most pivotal moment in the history of Chaos champions occurred during an event known as the Crimson Concordat, a previously undocumented gathering within the Eye of Terror that fundamentally changed how champions of chaos operated across the galaxy. This watershed moment took place in the aftermath of Abaddon's 12th Black Crusade, when the apparent failure of yet another massive campaign forced the champions to reconsider their approach to warfare. In the twisted spires of the planet of the sorcerers, Ahriman convened a forbidden conclave. Representatives from all major chaos factions attended, drawn by visions planted in their minds through his complex sorcery. Even the usually antagonistic champions of different gods found themselves compelled to participate. The gathering included Karn the Betrayer, who maintained an unprecedented 3 days of lucidity, Typhus, bringing new plagues specifically engineered for the occasion, and Lucius the Eternal, whose presence ensured the event's legendary status. The Crimson Concordat began with ritual combat as champions established hierarchy through blood and skill. However, this typical display of chaos supremacy transformed into something unprecedented when Ahriman unveiled his discovery, ancient texts predating the Horus heresy that detailed methods of combining chaos powers in ways previously thought impossible. The manuscripts, written in a language that burned the eyes of mortal observers, described techniques for champions to share and amplify their powers without losing their individual autonomy to their patron gods. This revelation sparked a chain of events that would reshape chaos warfare. The first demonstration came when 3 champions, a follower of Khorne, a sorcerer of Tzeentch, and a champion of Nurgle, combined their powers in a ritual that created a new type of warp storm. Unlike the usual manifestations of chaos, this phenomenon could be directed with precision, allowing for tactical deployments previously impossible. The implications were staggering. Champions had discovered that while their gods remained antagonistic, they themselves could achieve greater power through calculated cooperation. This understanding led to the formation of the first champion circles, loose alliances of champions who learned to coordinate their actions while maintaining their individual pursuits of power. The Crimson Concordat established several key protocols that would change how champions operated. The Pact of Mutual Ascension allowed champions to share power without risking absorption by their peers. This led to the creation of champion triads, groups of 3 champions from different chaos gods working in concert to achieve greater goals. The ritual of synchronized slaughter, first performed during the Concordat, demonstrated how champions could amplify each other's abilities in battle. Karn's berserker rage, when channeled through Ahriman's sorcery and enhanced by Lucius's mastery of pain, created a wave of violence that transformed an entire sector of the planet of the sorcerers. Most significantly, the Crimson Concordat established the protocol of strategic corruption. This systematic approach to spreading chaos influence marked a departure from the traditional random acts of destruction. Champions began targeting specific worlds and populations with customized strategies, combining their various methods of corruption for maximum effect. The consequences were immediate and far-reaching. Imperial tacticians noted a dramatic change in how champions conducted their campaigns. Instead of isolated acts of destruction, they encountered coordinated attacks that displayed unprecedented strategic depth. A world might be weakened by Nurglite plagues, then thrown into confusion by Tsenchian sorcery, before finally falling to a Kornati assault, all orchestrated by champions working in concert. The Grey Knights were the first to recognize the magnitude of this shift. The records speak of a great synchronization among Chaos forces, noting how champions had learned to coordinate their actions across vast distances through their connection to the warp. This new level of cooperation made them far more dangerous than ever before. Perhaps the most tangible outcome was the creation of the first champion nexus points locations in real space, where multiple champions could combine their powers to create stable warp rifts. These permanent tiers in reality served as staging grounds for future incursions, allowing champions to strike at the Imperium with greater force and precision than ever before. The Crimson Concordat also established the tradition of champion ascension trials, formalized tests that potential champions must pass to be recognized by their peers. This standardization of the ascension process ensured that new champions possessed not only raw power, but also the tactical acumen to use it effectively. This turning point remained secret from the Imperium for centuries, with only the mysterious disappearance of several key Imperial installations marking its effects. It was only during Abaddon's 13th Black Crusade that the full impact became apparent, as champions demonstrated levels of coordination that had never been seen before in Chaos forces. The legacy of the Crimson Concordat continues to shape the actions of champions today. Each new champion must decide whether to maintain the old ways of isolated power or embrace the new paradigm of strategic cooperation. This choice has created a fascinating dynamic within Chaos forces, as traditional rivalries clash with the demonstrated benefits of coordination. The rise of Chaos champions has fundamentally altered the fabric of galactic warfare, leaving an indelible mark on both real space and the Immaterium. Their impact extends far beyond mere military victories, creating rippling effects that continue to shape the future of the galaxy. The most immediate consequence manifests in the transformation of warfare itself. Traditional military doctrine, developed over millennia by the Imperium, became increasingly obsolete as champions introduced supernatural elements into battlefield equations. The presence of a single champion can render useless centuries of fortification, their reality-warping powers bypassing physical defenses that took generations to construct. Planetary governance underwent radical changes in response to champion threats. The Imperium instituted the Champion Response Protocol, a complex system of checks and balances ensuring that no single individual gains too much power or influence. This protocol has paradoxically weakened Imperial worlds by forcing leadership to divide authority, making coordinated planetary defense more challenging. The genetic legacy of champions poses an ongoing threat to Space Marine chapters. Studies by the biologist Mechanicum reveal that exposure to champion presence can trigger dormant chaos mutations in gene seed, even generations later. Several chapters discovered their genetic heritage compromised after encounters with champions, leading to tragic purges of otherwise loyal warriors. Environmental devastation follows in champions' wake, but not always in obvious ways. Worlds touched by their presence experience subtle changes, gravity fluctuations, time dilation effects, and psychic anomalies that persist for centuries. The Adeptus Mechanicus documented cases where champion-corrupted machinery continued functioning long after all power sources were removed, running on impossible energies. Perhaps most insidious is the psychological impact on Imperial citizens. The very existence of champions, many formerly loyal servants of the Emperor, undermines faith in Imperial institutions. Each champion serves as living proof that the mightiest can fall, creating a creeping doubt that corrodes morale more effectively than any physical weapon. The emergence of mirror zones represents another concerning development. These are regions where champion influence has warped reality so profoundly that Imperial technology functions unpredictably. Several Forge worlds now maintain specialized divisions dedicated to developing champion-resistant technology, though success remains limited. Economically, the champion threat forced reallocation of vast Imperial resources. The construction of specialized containment facilities, maintenance of anti-champion task forces, and continuous development of countermeasures drain resources from other critical areas of Imperial defense. Some economists within the Administratum estimate that champion-related expenditures consume nearly a fifth of the Imperium's military budget. Across the galaxy, unique phenomena termed champion signatures persist in areas where these mighty warriors once trod. These metaphysical scars in reality serve as warnings and navigational hazards. Navigator houses report increasing difficulty plotting safe warp routes as these signatures multiply, forcing ships to take longer, more dangerous paths through the immaterium. The rise of champions catalyzed unprecedented cooperation between traditionally antagonistic Imperial organizations. The Inquisition, Adeptus Mechanicus, and various Space Marine chapters established the Vigilance Eternal Initiative, a controversial program sharing intelligence and resources specifically to counter champion threats. This cooperation, while necessary, strains traditional Imperial power structures. Social structures on frontier worlds have evolved in response to champion threats. Communities developed complex systems of checks and balances, watching for signs of chaos, corruption among their leaders. This heightened paranoia, while sometimes effective at identifying threats, often tears communities apart from within. In the realm of technology, the fear of champion corruption led to increased technological stagnation. The Adeptus Mechanicus became even more conservative in their innovation, fearing that new technologies might provide champions with unexpected advantages. This technological paralysis leaves the Imperium increasingly vulnerable to Xenos threats. The spiritual impact resonates throughout the ecclesiarchy. The Imperial Creed incorporated specific prayers and rituals designed to ward against champion influence. These additions transformed the way billions of citizens practice their faith, introducing elements of paranoia and self-doubt into daily devotions. Military recruitment and training underwent dramatic revisions. The Schola Progenium now includes specific anti-champion protocols in their curriculum. Young commissars learn to identify signs of champion influence and, more importantly, how to maintain troop morale when facing these legendary adversaries. Naval warfare evolved significantly due to champion presence. The Imperial Navy developed new void combat doctrines accounting for the reality-bending capabilities of champion-led fleets. Ships now carry specialized equipment designed to detect and counter warp-based anomalies common in champion encounters. Perhaps most concerning is the emergence of legacy zones, regions where defeated champions left behind artifacts of impossible power. These areas require constant monitoring and containment, draining further resources from an already strained Imperium. Some of these zones exhibit properties that defy conventional physics, creating permanent hazards that cannot be eliminated, only contained. These consequences continue to multiply and evolve, creating an ever-changing landscape of threats and challenges. The Imperium's response remains reactive rather than proactive, always one step behind as champions introduce new forms of corruption and warfare to the galaxy. Within the dark arsenals of chaos, champions lie weapons and tactics that defy mortal comprehension. Their methods of warfare blend ancient technology with raw warp power, creating instruments of destruction that have reshaped how war is waged across the galaxy. Deep in the eye of terror, massive demon forge arrays hum with impossible energy. These nightmarish factories run on blood sacrifices and trapped souls, their assembly lines crafting weapons that blur the line between machine and flesh. Here, dark mechanicum heretics work alongside demon entities, forging artifacts of terrifying power for their champion masters. But perhaps most disturbing is the champion's mastery of flesh-metal fusion. Imagine armor that grows with its wearer, drinking in the blood of the slain to become stronger. Weapons that hunger for battle, screaming with the voices of bound demons. These are not mere tools, they are predatory extensions of the Champion's will. The power source for these dark innovations comes from warp core reactors, technological abominations that tear holes in reality itself. Each reactor requires constant sacrifices to maintain stability, its radiation mutating everything nearby into grotesque new forms. The energy they produce powers the Champion's most devastating weapons and largest warships. On the battlefield, Champions employ tactics that transcend conventional warfare. Their signature strategy, the corruption cascade, strikes at a world's physical, mental, and spiritual defenses simultaneously. It begins subtly. Cultist networks infiltrate key positions. Corrupted artifacts appear in population centers, and local leaders fall under dark influence. As the corruption spreads, Champions unleash weaponized mimetic viruses through communication networks. Sleeper agents activate in military installations. Psychic resonance fields drive entire populations to madness. By the time the Champion reveals themselves, the world is already lost. They've mastered the art of creating Nexus Point's temporary zones where reality breaks down completely. Within these areas, Champion powers reach their peak, allowing them to summon reinforcements from the warp or launch attacks across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Their combat techniques defy natural law. Slaaneshi Champions practice soul-forged combat, striking at both body and soul with impossible grace. Each blow bleeds memories instead of blood, creating wounds that echo through generations. Cornate Champions employ blood momentum tactics, where each kill exponentially increases their combat effectiveness until they become living storms of destruction. The psychological warfare employed by Champions breaks minds as effectively as their weapons break bodies. The Despair Cascade protocol targets spiritual leaders, while corrupted Imperial icons are displayed prominently. Broadcasting systems emit sanity-breaking frequencies, and captured Loyalist equipment is turned against former allies. Their defenses prove equally nightmarish. Warp-forged fortifications feature living walls that regenerate damage, automated systems powered by bound demons, and shield generators that bend reality itself. Personal protection systems include armor that feeds on enemy attacks and force fields that redirect damage to alternate dimensions. In void warfare, Champions command ships that defy explanation. These vessels phase between real space and the warp at will, some grown from corrupted space hulks, others powered by enslaved star gods. Their attack patterns incorporate time-dilated runs and multidimensional boarding actions that make conventional naval tactics obsolete. This arsenal of impossible weapons and tactics continues to grow as Champions develop new methods to wage war against the Imperium. Their ability to combine ancient knowledge with warp power makes them increasingly dangerous opponents, capable of corrupting the most steadfast defenders and overwhelming the strongest fortifications. The most terrifying aspect? These are just the techniques we know about. In the Eye of Terror and other warp-touched regions, Champions constantly experiment with new ways to harness both technology and the warp, ensuring their arsenal of horror only grows stronger with each passing day. In the dark pantheon of Chaos Champions, certain names echo through time with particular dread. These legendary figures have left marks so deep on the galaxy that their mere mention can cause hardened warriors to tremble and worlds to mobilize their defenses. Abaddon the Despoiler stands supreme among them. Once first captain of the Luna Wolves, now War Master of Chaos, his journey from loyal son to humanity's greatest threat epitomizes the Champion's path. Unlike others who pledge themselves to a single god, Abaddon maintains a precarious balance between all four Chaos powers. His mastery of the Black Legion transformed a broken force into the most feared army in the galaxy. The Talon of Horus and Drachnien, his legendary weapons, have ended countless lives and sundered reality itself. But perhaps more terrifying is his strategic genius. Each Black Crusade, far from the failures Imperial propaganda claims, represented a calculated step in a plan millennia in the making. The destruction of Cadia wasn't just a military victory. It was the culmination of thousands of years of preparation, proving that even Abaddon's apparent defeats served his greater purpose. Typhus the Traveler charts a different path to power. Once Callus Typhon of the Death Guard, he now sails the stars aboard the Terminus Est, spreading Nurgle's gifts across the galaxy. His mastery of the Destroyer Hive makes him unique among champions. He doesn't just kill his enemies, he transforms them into vehicles for new plagues. Entire sectors have fallen not to his weapons, but to the diseases he engineers. What sets Typhus apart is his patient approach to corruption. Unlike champions who seek immediate glory, he plants the seeds of decay and watches them flourish over centuries. His greatest victories often go unnoticed until it's too late. Populations discovering their water supplies were tainted generations ago, or planetary defense systems failing due to carefully cultivated rust strains. Karn the Betrayer embodies a more direct path to champion status. His legend began during the Horus Heresy, but it was at the siege of Scalathrax that he earned his title, the Betrayer. When World Eaters and Emperor's children sought shelter from the killing cold, Karn burned their refuge, forcing them to fight or freeze. This act of betrayal transformed him into something beyond even a champion of Khorne. He became an avatar of mindless butchery, yet even in his madness, patterns emerge. Imperial tacticians note that his rampages, seemingly random, often strike at crucial supply lines or command centers. Whether guided by Khorne's hand or some remnant of his tactical genius, Karn's paths of destruction serve larger strategic goals. Lucius the Eternal represents perhaps the most insidious type of champion. His curse ensures that anyone who kills him and feels even a moment of pride in the deed will eventually transform into Lucius himself. This unique form of immortality makes him one of the most dangerous champions to face. Victory against him often means becoming him. His armor, decorated with the faces of those who've killed him, serves as a grotesque trophy rack of his curse's victims. What makes Lucius particularly dangerous is his skill as a teacher. He doesn't just kill, he corrupts other warriors, teaching them techniques that slowly draw them towards Slaaneish's embrace. Many of his former students now serve as champions themselves, spreading his influence across the galaxy. Ahriman, chief librarian of the Thousand Suns, stands apart for his intellectual approach to champion status. His massive library of stolen grimoires and forbidden texts makes him perhaps the greatest mortal sorcerer in the galaxy. The rubric that bears his name, while devastating to his legion, demonstrated the scale at which champions can operate, a single spell affecting an entire legion of space marines. His ongoing quest to enter the Black Library drives him to pursue knowledge at any cost. Unlike champions who seek only destruction, Ahriman's actions often preserve knowledge, albeit twisted to serve chaos. Entire archives of forbidden lore exist because he chose to capture rather than destroy them. Be'lakor, the first damned one, represents the original template for what a champion could become. As the first mortal elevated to Demon Prince status, his existence proves both the potential and the price of chaos patronage. His ability to unite multiple chaos forces under his banner makes him particularly dangerous, as he understands better than most how to manipulate the rivalries between different chaos factions. Huron Blackheart took a unique path to champion status. As former master of the Astral Claws, his fall came not through immediate corruption, but through a gradual descent into tyranny. His domain in the Maelstrom serves as a haven for renegades and traitors, making him a kingmaker among champions. His strategic position and resources make him valuable, even to champions who would normally refuse to cooperate with others. The Dark Apostle Erebus deserves mention not for his martial prowess, but for his role in creating the very concept of modern champions. His corruption of Lorgar set in motion events that would transform Space Marines into the ultimate vessels for chaos power. His legacy lives on through the dark churches he established, each one a factory for creating new champions. Among the newest generation, Cranon the Relentless stands out. His leadership of the Crimson Slaughter shows how quickly a loyal chapter can fall to chaos. The voices that torment his warband drive them to ever greater acts of slaughter, creating a feedback loop of violence and corruption that continues to spawn new champions. More recent champions demonstrate evolution in how chaos power manifests. Vorx of the Lords of Silence brings a philosophical approach to spreading Nurgle's influence. His methodical corruption of Imperial worlds shows how champions adapt to counter new Imperial defenses. His success in turning Primaris Marines to chaos proves that even the Emperor's latest creations aren't immune to champion influence. The Exalted of the Black Legion represent a new development in champion creation. These beings, elevated through Abaddon's direct intervention, show how champion power can be standardized and replicated. Their existence suggests the dark possibility that champion creation has become a science rather than merely an art. These figures represent more than just powerful individuals. They embody different approaches to wielding chaos power. Each has found their own path to transcending mortality, proving that there is no single road to becoming a champion. Their continued existence, despite the Imperium's best efforts to destroy them, demonstrates the resilience inherent in champion status. Perhaps most troubling is how these legendary champions inspire others. Their examples create templates that aspirants follow, streamlining the process of corruption and ascension. Each victory they achieve, each world they corrupt, makes the next champion's path easier to follow. In the shadows of the Long War, countless mysteries surround the champions of chaos. The Inquisition's archives overflow with unanswered questions and disturbing theories about their true nature and ultimate goals. One of the most perplexing mysteries involves the disappearance of entire champion warbands. The notorious Crimson Path, led by the Chaos Lord Vorgath the Blessed, vanished without trace during the 13th Black Crusade. Imperial scholars noted that before their disappearance, they had raided several ancient Necron tomb worlds. Some theorized they discovered something that either destroyed them or transformed them into something beyond even chaos corruption. The question of immortality haunts both Imperial and Chaos forces alike. While champions clearly possess extended lifespans, reports suggest some can actually die permanently. The infamous case of Garmax the Hollow, a champion of Nurgle, raises disturbing possibilities. After his apparent death at the hands of Grey Knights, his plague-ridden corpse continued to spawn new champions who claimed to be his reincarnation. Each possessed his memories but exhibited distinctly different personalities. Perhaps most troubling is the Nexus theory, proposed by Inquisitor Heimlock before his mysterious disappearance. His research suggested that champions might be more than just powerful individuals. They could be living anchors that stabilize the warp's influence in real space. This theory explains why areas where champions fall often become permanent warp storm locations. If true, this means every champion's death potentially weakens the barrier between reality and the warp. The synchronicity phenomenon remains unexplained. Multiple reports describe champions of different chaos gods acting in perfect coordination despite no apparent communication. During the siege of Nemendgast, 8 separate champion warbands attacked simultaneously from different directions, each targeting a specific weakness in the planet's defenses. Theories range from a hidden champion hierarchy to direct manipulation by the Chaos Gods themselves. Dark Mechanicum archives hint at the existence of something called the Champion Engine, a theoretical construct that could mass-produce champions through technological means. Though most dismiss this as impossible, the recent emergence of champions with eerily similar characteristics has revived interest in this theory. The standardization of certain champion abilities suggests some truth might lie in these ancient records. The mystery of the first champion intrigues scholars of both Imperial and Chaos forces. While Be'lakor is known as the first Demon Prince, ancient texts speak of an even earlier figure, the Champion, whose name has been methodically erased from every record. Even the Chaos God's demons seem unable or unwilling to speak of this entity. Some theorize this being might have achieved something that threatened even the ruinous powers themselves. A particularly disturbing theory concerns the true purpose of champions. The Librarius Obscura suggests they might be more than just powerful warriors or leaders. Each champion could be an experiment, part of a larger plan by the Chaos Gods to create something beyond even demon princes. The varying powers and mutations they receive might be tests, with successful combinations being noted for some future grand design. The phenomenon of Echo Champions presents another unexplained mystery. In several documented cases, after a champion's death, multiple individuals across the galaxy simultaneously manifested similar powers and memories. The Grey Knights maintain a special containment protocol for these incidents, suggesting they understand more about this phenomenon than they reveal. The 13 Spheres of Chaos present another enigma. Ancient texts speak of 13 unique forms of champion ascension, each supposedly granting different types of power. Only 8 have been documented, with the remaining 5 either lost to time or deliberately hidden. Some theorize that finding all 13 could trigger a galaxy-changing event. Questions surround the strange case of reverse corruption. Reports exist of champions who appear to be slowly returning to their original uncorrupted forms while retaining their chaos-granted powers. The fate of these individuals remains unknown, as most disappear before the process completes. Some suspect they're eliminated by their fellow champions to prevent the discovery of a potential way to break chaos corruption. The concept of champion resonance remains poorly understood. Several documented cases show champions growing exponentially more powerful when in proximity to certain artifacts, locations, or even other champions. This effect doesn't follow any discernible pattern, suggesting an underlying mechanism that eludes both Imperial and Chaos understanding. Inquisitorial records speak of null champions, individuals who achieve champion-like powers but appear to exist outside the influence of any Chaos God. These beings, if they exist, might represent a different path to transcendent power, or perhaps serve some unknown entity rivaling the Chaos Gods themselves. The phenomenon of champion convergence events raises troubling possibilities. When multiple champions gather in one location, reality often breaks down in unexpected ways. During these events, witnesses report seeing alternate versions of the champions, suggesting they might exist simultaneously across multiple realities. The question of champion creation itself remains partially unsolved. While the broad strokes are understood, the specific moment of transformation eludes analysis. Some theorize that champions exist in a quantum state, simultaneously corrupted and loyal until fully observed, making the exact point of their fall impossible to determine. Recent studies of champion artifacts have revealed potentially troubling implications. Many of these items appear to be counting down to something, though what this timer measures remains unknown. The synchronization of these countdowns across different artifacts suggests a coordinated purpose that has yet to be revealed. Most disturbing of all is the theory of champion evolution. Evidence suggests that modern champions are significantly more powerful than their predecessors, even accounting for their greater experience. This implies that the very nature of champions is changing, potentially leading to some ultimate form that even the Chaos Gods didn't anticipate. These mysteries continue to multiply as rapidly as the champions themselves, each answered question spawning dozens more. The Inquisition maintains entire ordos dedicated to unraveling these enigmas, recognizing that understanding the true nature of champions might be crucial to humanity's survival. Yet each new discovery seems to reveal only how little we truly comprehend about these terrifying beings and their role in the dark future that awaits us all. As we draw the veil closed on our exploration of the champions of chaos, we must confront an unsettling truth. These beings represent not just humanity's greatest threat, but its dark reflection, a mirror showing what we might become when power becomes our only truth. The legacy of the champions continues to shape the galaxy in ways both obvious and subtle. Every world they touch becomes a testament to their influence, every soul they corrupt adds to their growing power. Their impact extends far beyond the physical scars they leave on battlefields or the ruins of once proud civilizations. Consider the broader implications of their existence. The champions prove that even humanity's greatest warriors, those specially created to defend mankind, can fall to darkness. The Imperium's response to this threat has transformed it, making it more paranoid, more ruthless, and perhaps ironically, more like the very enemy it fights against. The measures taken to prevent the rise of new champions have restricted freedom, stifled innovation, and created an atmosphere of constant suspicion. Yet perhaps the most chilling aspect of the champions' legacy is their role as pioneers of human evolution. Each champion represents a possible future path for humanity, paths of power that demand everything in return. Their transformations show us what humans might become when freed from physical and moral constraints, though the price of such freedom is arguably too high. The recent surge in champion activity suggests we're approaching a critical moment in this long war. The appearance of Primaris champions, the increasing sophistication of their corruption techniques, and the growing coordination between different champion factions all point to an approaching climax. The galaxy stands on the brink of change, and the champions of chaos seem poised to play a pivotal role in whatever comes next. But there's a deeper truth here, one that the Inquisition's highest-ranking members whisper in their most secure chambers. The champions represent a fundamental challenge to our understanding of reality itself. Their existence proves that the laws we thought governed the universe are more flexible than we imagined, that reality itself might be more malleable than we dared believe. Looking to the future, we see dark omens. The rate of champion emergence continues to accelerate. Their powers grow stronger with each generation. The barriers between reality and the warp thin with every ritual they perform. Some within the Imperium's highest echelons believe we're witnessing the early stages of humanity's next evolutionary leap, though whether this represents ascension or damnation remains to be seen. Remember, though, that every champion's story began with a choice. Each of these beings, no matter how monstrous they became, started as someone who chose power over principle, personal gain over collective good. Their tales serve as warnings of the prices we might pay for power, the costs of compromise, and the dangers of believing we can control forces beyond our understanding. As the story of the champions continues to unfold, one thing becomes increasingly clear. They are not simply enemies to be defeated, but harbingers of transformation. Whether this transformation leads to humanity's ultimate destruction or its dark transcendence remains to be seen. The only certainty is that the champions of chaos will continue to shape the destiny of our species, one corrupted soul at a time. And so our tale ends where it began, in the endless war between light and darkness, order and chaos, humanity and its own darkest desires. The champions of chaos stand as living proof that the line between hero and monster is thinner than we'd like to believe, and that the path to damnation often begins with the noblest intentions. In the grim darkness of the far future, the champions remind us that the greatest threats don't always come from external enemies, but from our own potential for corruption. They are the price we pay for power, the shadow cast by our brightest achievements, and perhaps a glimpse of humanity's ultimate fate in a universe where the only constant is change.